Well, hello, ladies, and howdy, y'all. Tonight it's it's passive form night. Yeah, it's passive form. We're gonna learn about passive voice and how to use it. Okay, are you guys ready to get your passive voice on? I'm super excited. To be honest, I'm pretty happy with how this presentation has turned out. The problem is I finished this presentation yesterday or the day before. I think it was Monday. And then I didn't look at my slides again after that. So I haven't looked at them since, but I think it's I think they're good. I think it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be real good. Real good. Part 2 of my verb conjugation series is up on the YouTube channel, including a 3-minute long edit of Kiryu beating people up with a chari in Yakuza 0. So, you know it's quality. You know it's quality. Welcome to Japanese verb conjugation and overview, part 3, passive voice. We've done basic verb conjugations, we've done potential form, and now we're doing passive. And then next one is going to be causative form, which is, tricky, but we'll get there. We'll get through it. All right. So let me jump right into it. Oh yeah, objectives. Here we go. So we're going to cover what passive form is, what it entails, the conjugation for passive form, particle usage with passive form, which is pretty tricky. Scenarios to use passive form, scenarios to not use it. And damn it, that's not supposed to be in there. The potential thing, strike that last one from the record. That's not supposed to be there. I just imported this slide in from my potential presentation and didn't delete that. Strike that last one from the record. All right. First, a PSA. Watch the other parts on YouTube to avoid confusion. There's going to be a link to the slideshow in the description. When this goes on to the YouTube channel, it'll be there. Make sure you watch those videos. If you have any questions, please ask them. This is more of a discussion format rather than a lecture format. So please ask questions, share inputs and comments. If I screw anything up, please, let me know. And then also, these chats are completely free. Of course, you're more than they're totally free and all that, but they do take quite a bit of time, so donations are very much appreciated, should you feel so inclined. Oh, geez. Oh my gosh. Shitsumon garu? You're gonna ask a question? I misread that because it's tiny. But what if I told you I'm not wearing any? All right, let's get into it. Active voice versus passive voice. So this is just so that you know what it is. In active voice, the subject of the sentence is what's doing the action. So I will eat the apple. 私はリンゴを食べる, right? I eat the apple. I will eat the apple. So that's active voice, right? The subject is doing the object, and then the object is receiving the action, right? In passive voice, what used to be the object of the sentence is now the subject. So the apple will be eaten by me. Ringo wa, particle marker, topic marker for wa. Watashi ni taberareru. Okay, it will be eaten by me. So passive voice allows the speaker to emphasize different parts of the sentence and create a different tone. And in English, we tend to think of passive voice as being like unprofessional or like bad writing, which is not true even in English, right? It just depends on the situation. Like news reports are very much in third person in passive voice to like maintain some objectivity, or perhaps because they don't know who did an action, right? If you say the bank was robbed, they don't necessarily know who robbed it, so they put it into passive voice, right? So it's going to be, it's not necessarily bad, it's just contextual. And we'll talk about how this context is used or changed or different in Japanese as compared to English. What happens if you change ringo wa to ringo ga? I'm glad that you asked. I actually have a video on particles, my very first video on YouTube that did grammar, where I talked about that very distinction. So, you know, I'm gonna leave that one to past Mr. Slippy, but that is a great question. I'll talk about it afterwards. Well, we'll circle back around it if you remind me. Okay, first things first, how is it conjugated? So if you watch the previous segment, whether you're here on YouTube or whatever, then you should be familiar with potential form. And we've talked about how passive form conjugates similarly. So you do the rareru, right? That's the whole purpose of the ra nuki kotoba, where they were removing the ra for potential form to make it just reru, because passive voice uses rareru. And there is no ra nuki kotoba in passive voice, obviously. It's just rareru. However, that's mostly for ichidan verbs. With godan verbs, part 1 of this series, you want to know about that? It conjugates differently. So before with, you see my mouse, perfect. With potential form, you use base 4, meaning you're using an conjugation at the end, right? So ao would become aeru in potential form. But in passive form, you use base 1, which means it's going to be an ah sound. But of course, since this is a you godan verb, as opposed to like a ru or a tsu godan verb, it becomes awareru. You change the u. Instead of ah, you say wa. Awareru. Hey, Death Metal 420, welcome. Welcome to the stream. Hello, hello, hello. Hope you're doing great. We're talking about passive voice and learning together. So we've got ichidan verbs which conjugate just like potential form does in passive form. It's just base 1 or 2 and then rareru. So taberu becomes taberareru. Bam, passive, easy peasy. Hey, Tamaki-san, konnichiwa. また来てくれてありがとうございます。Tamaki-san, thank you for coming. And, you know, as usual, if I mess up, please let me know. And then we have our irregular verbs, kuru, which becomes korareru, and then suru, which instead, with that other one, so with potential form, suru would become dekiru, right? Whereas suru here becomes sareru. So obviously there's no ra nuki kotoba for passive voice because that would defeat the purpose. And rareru is itself conjugated like an ichidan verb. So it means it can change godan verbs into ichidan verbs, right? So oyogu, right, which is to swim, becomes oyogareru, which now it's going to function like an ichidan verb when you conjugate it, as opposed to a godan verb. So you would conjugate as oyogarenai. How does it work in respect to intransitive verbs? So in a lot of ways, you can kind of substitute a lot of words that are transitive verbs into intransitive verbs by making them passive voice. It's kind of how that works. Because you're you're changing, I guess, the nature of how like the subject-object relationship works. So this is more of a tool to change those into intransitive form. But you can still, but it's more than that too, because even with intransitive verbs, you can still reflect it back upon the subject as well. So what sentence structure and particles should be used? Correct particle usage. I know before when I talked about potential, it was like wa versus ga or that type of thing. You could kind of get away with some scrub whatever stuff. Not here. No. There's none of this, oh, I'm just a gaijin bullshito, right? You have to get this right. So basic sentence structure is as follows. X is the one experiencing the action. Notice that I do not say direct object. That's going to be important later. It's the person, it's the thing that's person that's experiencing the action, and Y is the actor. So X wa Y ni verb plus られる. So 私は熊に殺された. Right? I was killed by a bear. This is a throwback to when I played Elden Ring, where this phrase came out of my mouth in probably English and Japanese on several occasions. If you put it intransitive into passive form, well, it changes the structure of it, right? But we're going to talk about, or just hold your horses, Jazzy. We're going to get into some of the uses of passive form in just a minute. This seems pretty straightforward, but just keep in mind that Japanese often omits obvious things. So like, this can be the doer, the experiencer, all that stuff, right? So 私は熊に殺された can become 熊に殺された. Depending on context, you can omit the subject and just say I was killed by a bear. 私は殺された I was killed by a bear. Or you could just say 殺された. If it's obvious that you were killed by a bear, then you can just say 殺されたよ. Just something that's important to note if you're not familiar with this idea, that parts of sentence are often omitted in Japanese if the context is obvious. Particles. We're going to talk quite a bit about particles. So instead of ni, you can also use kara as well as nyote. Nyote in place of it, but only in certain situations. So kara can be used if the doer and the experiencer are both humans and the action is done to the experiencer, right? So, haha ga kara shikarareta. As I was scolded by my mom. Now, would you use kara here instead of ni? Right? Could, but this is the way to do it. Like, this is an example of a situation in which kara is permitted. Not necessarily that you should use it here, but it's one situation in which it's allowed. Whereas if you were to say like, oh, he was, hit by a car or something, since the car is not a human, you wouldn't use kara there, okay? So all of those conditions need to be met. And then the other time that kara is used is when you're talking about how something is made. For example, このギターは木から作られた. This guitar is made from wood, or made out of wood. So we talked last stream about like the whole dekteru thing, like, oh, they're able to do it by using this. This is another way to say something that has a similar meaning as far as like, not necessarily how they're able to do it, but what it's made from. You can use kara in this situation. And then nyote is more formal, but it is still used in writing and speaking, and it's often used when describing something that's created, imagined, invented, or written. For example, Botto-chan ga jaji to tado ni yotte umareta. It was birthed by Jazzy and Tado. The union of these two figures together birthed the bot that we use. Whoa, your horses must be held. Get it? This is definitely not a Tado level pun, but thought I'd throw it out there. So how do we use o in this situation, right? How do we use o with this? Because we definitely should. But how we do it is a little bit tricky because we're marking an object, right? But we might be like, well, aren't we already using ni to talk about the experiencer? Well, this is more like the receiver of an action, right? So you can still use this if an object is being like directly acted upon, especially if there are other things that are occupying the X and Y categories, right? You can use O to distinguish from these roles. So, for example, 私は妹にピザを食べられた. So, my cake was eaten by my little sister. So in this case, I'm saying that I am experiencing the act of my cake being eaten, right? I'm experiencing my cake getting eaten by my punk sister. Or sorry, I'm saying cake, pizza. I could have at least went with pie, but pizza, right? So I'm experiencing my pizza, the pizza being eaten by my little sister, right? So that's why the direction particle is pointing towards me. So you can think of ni as in that way. Like we normally think of ni as a direction particle a lot of times. So that's another way to conceptualize this as like, it's coming towards me, right? I'm the one experiencing this. It's being directed at me, so to speak. Oh, and hold on. So I screwed that up. Sorry, I totally screwed that up. So imoto is taking it, right? So it's by way of her is what I meant to say, is that it's by way of her that I'm having this. So I'm the subject, right? I'm the subject because I'm experiencing it, is what I meant to say. I'm the subject. I'm the one experiencing it. That's why I get the subject, the topic particle, right? Because I am the experiencer of the pizza being eaten by my little sister, by way of my little sister. Does that make more sense? Hopefully. Sorry for the slip up there. I'm the experiencer. I get the topic particle. And then what am I experiencing? I'm experiencing my pizza being eaten by my little sister, my punk sister. I have 2 punk little sisters, by the way. But only one of them would eat my pizza. So you could be like, well, why don't you just say like, watashi no pizza wa imoto ni taberareta, right? And you could, and that's grammatically correct, but there are reasons why you may not want to. And here's where we're going to start talking about some of the more nuances of passive voice, how it's used, and how to like make it feel more natural, as well as use it in ways that English really doesn't. Pizza experience being eaten, yeah. The pizza was the experiencer of getting eaten by little punk sisters. Okay, tricky things coming through. So, firstly, reason why you might want to use place yourself as the subject rather than the pizza as the subject is because Japanese does have an animacy hierarchy. What that means is that living things are prioritized over non-living things. And then even within there's categories of like which living things have priority. Now, that's not necessarily the most that's not necessarily the most important reason why you might want to place like yourself as the subject, but it is one. And I think it leads into this next concept about passive voice, which is that Japanese storytelling typically tends to favor recounting the story from the subject's perspective. So if you're talking about yourself and your story, right, rather than saying he hit me, like in English, we would say that a lot, like, oh, he hit me, you know? Whereas in Japanese, because the person telling the story is talking about their experience, it's very common to use passive voice so that they are at the center of it, right? You're still experiencing the story along with them from their perspective. So I was struck by him would be a more, I guess, appropriate way to construct this because you're talking about yourself. Furthermore, passive carries a lot of weight when you use it, a lot of emotional weight. It's often used to convey emotion. Hey, what's up, Mr. James? It's often used to convey a lot of emotion. And this leads to what's called the indirect passive. So this is something that we don't really have in English. We have direct passive, which we covered, but indirect passive is often used to complain or express dismay about something. It's kind of like, oh, woe is me, why is this happening type of thing. So, for example, if you were to say, Koromo ni keitai o kowasareta, meaning my phone was broken by a kid, right? You're complaining about it. If you just said, oh, like, kodomo wa keitai o kowashita, it's like you're stating it like a fact. Like you're just saying, oh, this happened. But you're not inputting yourself into the narrative. And by virtue of not putting yourself into the narrative, it doesn't carry the same kind of emotion that you would be feeling if some freaking kid broke your phone. So that's one reason why you would want to use passive voice here, because it's putting that subjectivity, it's expressing, I'm upset about this, right? This kid broke my phone and that sucks, you know? So additionally, the o, right? If you're saying koromo ni keitai o kawasareta, there's even more like emphasis on how you're upset, right? Keitai wa koromo ni kawasareta doesn't express the same dismay, even though it's passive voice, because you're not putting yourself in there. The subject is still the phone. And yeah, the phone is getting broken by the kid, but that doesn't say much about how you feel about your phone getting broken, right? Whereas if you put yourself into it, then there's some emphasis on like, yeah, my phone got broken, right? Koromo ni keitai o kosareta yo. My phone is broken by this kid, you know? I always get a weird sense that wa is like a reset button. I know what you mean. It's like you're talking and it's like the same thing. It's like the subject is consistent, right? And then bam, new subject comes in. Bam, reset, change perspective or direction, right? Yeah, I know what you mean. My phone, me, yeah, exactly. You're putting yourself there. So we've got koromo wa keitai o kawashita. This is very factual. I do think that it's, if you were to put that your phone was broken by the kid, there's a little bit more emotion in there. I won't say I'm 100% positive on that one though. But if you use the keitai o kawasareta construction, you're definitely expressing that you are upset about this, right? Now, this also applies whether or not there is a direct impact on you, right? Or it could just be if you're just annoyed. Like, if your neighbor, right, who you hate and is always showing off their wealth, you know, they're like, yeah, kanemochi, you know, showing off their wealth, and they get a new car, and now you're just like, oh, I know what's going to happen. They're going to get this new car. They're going to be bragging, you know, you know, like it's going to be annoying. You'd say, oh, kare ni adarashi kuruma o kawareta. So like he bought a new car, right? Or a new car was bought by him. But you're still putting yourself in here. You're still the subject of this sentence. You're still expressing something about how it affects you, even though them buying a new car doesn't necessarily have like a direct impact on you receiving an action or anything like that, right? That's why you're not the direct object here. You're the experiencer of this situation, because you can use it this way too. So, donna kuruma wa kare ni kawareta? So in this case, you probably wouldn't want to use, I mean, you could, right? But in this case, it's not really, you're not necessarily expressing, like the point of it isn't to express your dismay over it. The point is more to learn more about what kind of car they got. So in this instance, you probably wouldn't necessarily need to use passive voice, but you could, right? You could in that instance, but you wouldn't necessarily need to. You could just say, what kind of car did he buy? Whereas this sentence is more explicit about that. But you could do it that way too. Like, yeah, if you still want to take like kind of a complainy tone, you know. And this is actually a good lead-in, because this also has a lot to do with inflection as well, right? Because you can use a positive inflection in order to express that whatever happened to you was a good thing, right? So if you said, Maple ni deito ni sasawareta, right? If you said a neutral tone, it might be automatically assumed as negative. You know, Maple ni deito ni sasawareta. You know, a type of like, Maple asked me out on a date, right? Or you could say, oh, Maple ni deito ni sasawareta yo. Like, yeah, Maple asked me out on a date. Woo! Right? It can go either way. It depends on the inflection, right? But you're still talking about your experience. Maybe the kimo. Yeah. Obviously, anytime getting asked out on a date by Maple is the excited version of this, right? Excited, happy to be asked out. So, oh yeah, any questions about that? Because that's all I got. 以上です. This is really, really important because like passive voice is used all the time. And the crazy thing is that it's kind of not even really passive in a lot of instances, right? Like it kind of is sort of like a little aggressive. Or it can be depending on the extent of your complaining, you know? So it really puts the aggressive in passive aggressive. You know what I mean? This stuff is still just past what you cram into your skull. Yeah, and this is one of those things too that like I think it's something that you can conceptualize in a like you can see yourself like how you're going to use it, right? Like oh, like someone does something to you, like they I don't know, like they like oh, like like oh, I was hit or shot by that person, right? And you're expressing dismay about it. It's more just like it's more just a thinking about when you would want to use it, you know, about when you want to use it, and thinking of what kind of emotion you want to interject into it. But it takes practice, I think. It's one of those things that requires like practice and familiarity with and a lot of use to kind of like be able to naturally use passive. Because I think as English speakers, when we jump into learning Japanese or any language really, we kind of want to keep all of our old habits and kind of like our mindset of how to expression of how to express things. And I think this one requires a pretty big shift because we really don't use passive like this. So I think this is one of those ones that it's really critically important to sounding, you know, more like a native, to communicating the way you want to, but it's also something that requires kind of a mindset change of like, wait, I'm talking about my experience. I want to be at the center of this and frame it that way and use passive to express my emotions. So it's kind of tricky. Can you use it can you use it without the ni or the o? Yeah, you can. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Like in this example, 私は殺された? Yeah, you can say that. That's totally fine. Is your example correct? Yeah. 銀行. Yeah, for sure. It was robbed. Yeah. That's fine. You can totally say that. And then of course, if you want to express like regret about something, like if you're the person who's doing the wrong thing, right? And you want to express regret, you wouldn't use passive voice. You would use the te shimao form, right? Like, oh, like, 盗んでしまった. I robbed it on accident. You know? Got scammed? Exactly. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. If you got scammed by someone, you would definitely want to be dumping passive all over the place. For sure. Yeah. That's a great example because that fits the criteria of like you're talking about yourself, right? Storytelling, animacy hierarchy, all that good stuff. And then you're also expressing a proper emotion for it. So yeah, totally. But if you are the one who's regretting something that you've done, you wouldn't use passive voice. You would use te shimao construction, which often becomes the chao chatta. You know, oh, I accidentally stole it. Ooh. Or I stole it and I regret it. Ooh. Type of thing, right? Okay. Well, I hope that was informative. And if you guys want like e-lesson, okay, cool. I'm glad that it is good. And we're gonna be playing Yakuza 0 right after we do some Duolingo. And then we're going to be looking for examples of passive voice to learn from. Of course, it's all going to be in Osaka Ben, so we have to jump over that hurdle, but but we will be checking it out. We'll probably find some in Duo as well. What was the sentence where the guy used passive and causative? I don't remember, but passive and causative is done all the time. Like tabesasarareta, I was force fed, or I was, or not necessarily forced, but I was fed, you know, probably force fed. I guess, can you be fed with, well, okay, no, it doesn't have to be. Yeah. You could agree to be fed. Tabesasarareta, but I don't remember the exact sentence that was used, but you know, sasaru, is that causative suru? Yeah, it is. It is sasaru. Depends on what you're into. Hey, there you go. Be force fed all sorts of stuff. 694 on the frequency, so I guess it is used all the time. Yeah, for sure. It is used. Yeah. All right, and let's look for passive voices. Mahotsukai, wizard. You're a Mahotsukai, Harry. We are scheduled to arrive at noon. Desho. This is interesting because in English we use passive voice, right? We are scheduled, whereas in the Japanese they don't use passive voice. Maybe because it's not expressing any kind of emotion or like dismay or something. Okay, let's do some Yakuza 7. Sorry, Yakuza 0. Today's daily kanji is giwa or sai, right? It means occasion, side, edge, dangerous, time, when, vocab, tosatsu, jikan ga waku, kagimawaru, right? Jakuniku kyoshoku, and then yatsu atari, taking out one's anger. そうですよね。偽物。そうだ。それですよ。Yeah, a fake one. Man, I said swindle your girlfriend and this guy jumped up. But yeah, the freaking sausage-shaped poo. Yo, Oni-chan. This is what he said last time I almost kicked this guy's ass. Wait, do I have any healing? Fuck, I've got one thing. Oh! You have to not get hit. Damn, he's being really nice. He like wants me to take his money. Let's actually. Oh! Oh! Run away! Movement. Movement, good. We're gonna do this hitless. Oh! Sorry! No! No! Damn it! I tempted fate! I tempted fate. Yeah. He's like, I don't want it. Oh, this is a good use of hodo, right? To the extent that you want to buy it. He's like, I don't want it, I don't need it, or I don't want it to the extent that I'll buy it. Kal hodo. Kal to buy, hodo to the extent of. I don't want it enough to buy it, but そういえばあなたさっき you were just gonna enter the public telephone. Damn it, I have to look up this. I mean, I should, because that's the purpose of this stream. We take a fairly granular approach. 講習 it's 習講習だな講習に入ろうとしてましたね Weren't you just about to enter the public telephone? 存分に最先端技術を味わってください Taste it. Should I be giving this guy like a murder face voice? 忙しいでしょうから100歩 something って気が向いた時っていいですよ That's my best murder face 僕はここでひたすら待ちますから I'm gonna give him all my money so that I can make a buttload off, make a killing off of this guy. Oh, speaking Speak of the devil. Let's go. I got nothing to lose. This is going way better. I don't know if I... Oh! No, get up, get up, get up, get up, get up, get up, get up. What? No, I couldn't. I was mashing the back button and it couldn't. Hey, wait. Is this guy gonna help me? Help that guy trick his girlfriend? やっぱり日本語難しいよね。何言ってるか全然わからないね。Oh, the old I don't speak any Japanese trick, huh? Huh? That could get you out of a lot of jams in Japan, that's for sure. Well, anyway, what I'm gonna do right now is this. I don't know that I want to fight this guy here though. But let's fight this guy here. Yabai. Oh, fuck! Man, I can't seem to beat this guy. Well, I think that time I would have died irregardless. Nice. Oh, I forgot that the whole point of this sub-story is that we're trying to trick this guy's girlfriend by giving her a fake product. Maybe this is not the, maybe tricking your girlfriend on her birthday is not the way to go. That necklace, is he gonna? Nisemono nanya. It's a fake. Nisemono? A fake? Although, to be honest, he probably went through more, like, trauma getting this fake than he did getting the real thing. He nearly got his finger chopped up by Chinese people. He's like, I think that that's the only thing that's not fake about him. Girl, run. Buck. これからは彼女に対して偽物の言葉なんかじゃなく本物の言葉を伝えて生きていこうと思います。I want to express only true things to her and not tell her any more lies. Bare minimum for a relationship, you know. それが一番や。Yeah, that's number one, yeah. Pro advice of the day. Don't lie to your girlfriend, you know? Oh, I want to fight him, but I don't want to fight him here. Oh! Kochika! He just appeared. And this is a perfect... Look at this. This is a great place to fight him, too. All right, this time we're going to get him. No! No! Mataka. I'm going to beat this guy's ass right now. I am so sick of this guy. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Camera, do not screw with me. Hold on, I'm too slow. Drink this. Nice. It's a critical component of my strategy of running away. Oh! Thread the needle. Oh! Yeah! Wow, I'm surprised that didn't clip me right there. That was a close one. Okay, he's pissed. Well, I'm pooped. You just brought piss to a shit fight. Yeah! Yes! Fifth time's the charm. Punk ass. Katsuage-kun. I am fate itself. I am coming. I'm coming at you so hard that once it hits you, you can't get away from it. You can't escape. I'm too hard. I'm coming too fast. My glorious victory. Me showering this guy with my fate. 우르고 득. It doesn't matter. I won. That's what matters. So what if I can't read this kanji? I still beat this guy's ass. Nerd. Not right now. Although I'm buffer than ever. It'll probably be way easy. Oh! Oh, shoot! All right, well, this seems like as good a place as any. We got the takoyaki, so next time we can continue the story, the main story. Did some side quests, and by side quests, I mean we did like a side quest. Good night, y'all. See you later. Johnny. I've prepared for you another presentation. Passive aggressive form, hell yeah. Yeah, like my grandma. Well, it's like how she used to be, but she's no longer with us. She's incredibly passive these days. She's passive aggressing the angels now. I don't think she made it there. We're starting off on a pretty dark note. I have a tale of two grandmas. One grandma was super awesome. The other grandma was really mean. Like really, really mean to everyone. But anyway, let's not, damn it, how did it come to this? This is not how I wanted things to start off. Buduchin? Oh yeah. Man, I'm gonna have to edit little I try to keep these somewhat, you know, PG rated compared to the normal streams. And for the video later, I got to edit all this stuff, but I was kind of thinking maybe I just embrace it, you know? Stop reading the comments. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Maybe I just embrace it. Maybe I just give like vulgar grammar lessons or grammar presentations, and that's just the way to go. Okay.